Now, what is going on in Saudi Arabia? Indians who are trying to make a living there complain they've not been paid in months. The Indian Foreign Ministry says 10,000 of them don't even have enough money to buy food. They can't afford a ticket home either, and so they're essentially trapped. Now, what will become of them? Azhar Sukri has this report.
This is food being handed out by one of the world's poorest countries in one of the wealthiest. The Indian government has been helping thousands of its citizens at camps in Saudi Arabia who've been laid off.
Food has been distributed in all the 5 camps, and we have also provided rations to them for the next 7 to 10 days, but this is not a permanent solution.
The government says many Indian workers have not been paid for months. The Indian consulate in Jeddah says it's distributed almost 16,000 kilograms of food to workers in recent days. Many of the more fortunate Indians living there have also helped out. And because employers in many parts of the Gulf, including Saudi Arabia, confiscate passports of low-paid workers, they now can't leave the kingdom. New Delhi says it will also help to bring them home. This is one of many user-generated videos that have appeared in recent years on social media of men from South Asia pleading for help to get back to their families.
Please save us. We were sent on a visit visa 1 year ago. Even the salary they gave, they made deductions from it and gave us just $80 to $100, so how can we even eat? After that, they have not paid us in 7 months.
Saudi Arabia is the world's biggest exporter of crude oil, and its economic fortunes have, for decades, been dictated by its price. For the last 2 years, it's kept the pace of production at near record levels to maintain its share of global output. It's done this in response to US shale oil companies who've become major players. The result has been a plunge in prices. Brent crude is now trading at a third of its levels in 2014. And this has hurt Saudi Arabia's economy. The IMF expects its budget deficit to be around 13% of GDP this year. And the government can't afford to spend on large projects the way it used to, which leaves many of the people it hired without work. The Labour Ministry did not respond to TRT World's calls and emails requesting comment on the latest developments and accusations. Even in more prosperous years, groups like Human Rights Watch have documented the abuses suffered by migrant workers in Saudi Arabia. Now the plight of workers like these appears to be getting even more desperate. Azhar Sukri, TRT World.
And Azhar joins us in the studio now. Azhar, so many questions as a result of what's happening in Saudi Arabia. These people are vulnerable. They've not been paid enough to really save, so they can't afford the ticket home. What happens now?
Yeah, you can't really underestimate the impact that this, not only Saudi Arabia, but many of the Gulf economies have had on communities in South Asia, like India and Pakistan. Entire villages, entire communities have been built. They've been putting their kids through school because of the money remitted back from the Middle East. And now that that region is going through a downturn, a lot of those communities are going to be affected. So the implications are widespread.
Okay. Now, it's not just Indians who have been affected. Pakistanis have also been affected by the downturn in the Saudi economy. In fact, we've spoken to one who's just returned home after being laid off. Here's what he had to say.
People sell their livestock and take loans to go work there. When they encounter such problems, many people commit suicide. When they see their families starving and creditors knocking their doors every day, they are starving there, and some are even killing themselves.
And so a lot of the control that the Gulf Arabs have over the migrant workers is down to the sponsorship system. Just tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, you're talking about the kafala system, and some of the governments in that part of the world have been trying to dismantle this, but essentially what it is when a essentially low-paid worker enters the country, they have their passport taken away from them. Their entire contracts are tied to the company that they work for. So in many respects, they are entirely beholden to that company. So even if they decide that they've had enough, they want to go back, they can't leave a lot of the time. So, you know, a lot of these people live in compounds that are built by the company, they work there,
Labour
they
camps.
live there. They're labour camps, essentially, yes. And so it's very difficult to break out of this system once you get into it.
Just want to rewind for a moment here, Azhar. Just explain why so many people are losing their jobs in Saudi Arabia. We've got a little time left for that.
Yeah, the price of oil, as we mentioned there, huge plunge over the last 2 years. These economies have been entirely dependent on oil, and that's causing major implications for their own economies. They're going into deficits, and so the projects that they've been building up over the last few years, they just can't afford to keep them going anymore.
Great. OK, Azhar, well, we're going to stay with oil.